Imagine discovering that you've inherited a luxurious beachfront house from your father, worth millions of dollars. At first, you're overjoyed to have acquired your dream home. But upon arriving, you uncover a dark secret. One your family has kept from you. This secret puts both your life and your family's lives in danger. How will you handle this situation to save your loved ones and escape the disaster they unknowingly walked into? This is the premise of the movie The Tank. The story begins in California in 1978, where we meet Jules, who works at a pet store owned by her husband Ben. One day, as they are closing up the store, a man named Amos arrives, asking to speak with Ben about his mother, Linda. Ben invites Amos inside, where Amos explains that his former business partner was Linda's lawyer. While searching through old files, he found a deed for a coastal property in Oregon, registered in Ben's father's name. Ben is shocked, as he has never heard of this property before. His mother never mentioned that his father owned land on the coast. Amos hands him a key and tells him that when someone in your family dies, they leave behind many secrets. He assures Ben that he will uncover the truth once he visits the property. Before leaving, Amos asks Ben what he knows about his father. Ben replies that the only thing he knows is that his father and sister, Rosie, died in a car accident before he was born. Amos then gives Ben an old newspaper article reporting his father's and sister's disappearance. According to the article, they were last seen swimming in Hobart Bay before vanishing. Shocked by this revelation, Ben, along with Jules, their daughter Rhea, and their dog, decide to visit the property. Following Amos' directions, they arrive at the house, which is deep within a forest. They are amazed by its size and even more excited when they realize it overlooks Hobart Bay. Coming from a small cramped apartment, they are thrilled to now own such a beautiful home. While exploring the property, Ben finds a large underground water tank. Curious, he decides to climb inside despite Jules' warnings. Inside, he finds an old lantern on the ground, which he takes with him before leaving the tank. That night, as they clean up and settle in, they begin looking through the documents they found in the house. Jules discovers reports in Ben's mother's room confirming that his father and sister drowned but that their bodies were never recovered. As they discuss this, a window suddenly slams shut, startling them. They assume it was just the wind. Later, Jules finds Linda's old diary, where she describes their first days in the house. She recalls how her husband, Alec, believed they would have a fresh start there. She also writes about a man who visited daily to help Alec build the water tank, digging over 100 feet deep to reach pure water. One day, they received an anonymous envelope containing old newspaper clippings about Hobart Bay. Alec insisted Linda throw them away, saying whoever sent them was trying to scare them into leaving. One stormy night, Alec stayed up restless. The next morning, Linda took Rosie to the bay while Alec remained behind. But when she returned, he was gone. She searched everywhere but never found him. She later discovered that he had gone into the water tank to inspect it, only to see something horrifying inside. Before he could escape, something dragged him down. After 3 days of searching, Linda reported his disappearance to the police. The last entry in the diary is dated May 5. Ben realizes that his sister, Rosie, disappeared on May 10, 5 days later. He becomes determined to uncover what happened in those missing days. That night, Rhea, frightened, struggles to sleep. She hears strange noises coming from beneath the floor. When she checks, she notices something moving under the rug. Terrified, she runs to wake her mother, telling her that something is trying to get into her room. Jules wakes Ben, and he searches the house but finds nothing. Stepping outside to investigate further, Jules follows him, only to hear a disturbing sound. When she turns, she sees Ben standing in front of her. They rush back inside and try to sleep. The next morning, Ben goes down into the water tank to repair it. Jules warns him to call a professional, but he insists it's an easy fix. While working, he notices a deep tunnel behind the tank's walls. He considers entering but ultimately backs away, sensing something ominous. Before leaving, he finds a strange dead sea creature on the ground and decides to take it back to the house for further examination. Neither he nor Jules can identify the creature, so they keep it for later study. Meanwhile, outside, Rhea notices their dog barking at the water tank. Thinking her father is inside, she approaches and calls for him. Suddenly, she hears a terrifying sound from within. Panicking, she screams, and Jules rushes to her. Rhea tells her she heard the same eerie noise she heard in her room the night before. Ben warns her to stay away from the tank, explaining that it's full of animals. Later, a real estate agent named Muriel arrives. She explains that Amos asked her to meet them to discuss selling the property. Ben and Jules take her to the shore, where she tells them about the history of Hobart Bay. She informs them that she knows a buyer willing to pay a high price for the house. Handing them a piece of paper with the offer, They are shocked by the amount. Muriel then tells them she will set up a meeting with the buyer. After leaving, Muriel reaches her car but realizes it won't start. As she steps out to check, she is suddenly yanked off her feet and dragged into the trees by an unseen force. That night, Jewel hears strange noises again. Waking Ben, she insists that something is moving downstairs. Grabbing flashlights, they investigate. Jules catches a glimpse of a terrifying creature through the window before it quickly vanishes. Screaming, she tells Ben she no longer wants to stay in the house. Ben, however, insists on staying and plans to meet with Muriel. So that they could sell the house and leave, Ben turned on the water pipe, but black water started coming out. He went to the water tank to find out what the problem was and found a dead raccoon floating in the water. He went back and told Jules, "I think what you saw at the window last night was just a raccoon making those noises." Then, he pulled out a necklace and said, "I found this in the tank." Jules suddenly remembered seeing that necklace before. She went inside, brought a picture of Rosie, and showed it to Ben, saying, "She was wearing the same necklace. We need to call the police to investigate this place." Ben agreed and said, "I'll go to the gas station and call the police from there." While driving, Ben saw Muriel's car abandoned in the middle of the road. He also noticed blood on the ground and followed the trail until he found Muriel's body, brutally torn apart. Panicking, he ran back to his car, grabbed his radio, and tried to contact the police. Meanwhile, Jules saw traces of black liquid on the ground and followed them to the second bathroom, which was locked. She went to the office, found the key, and unlocked the bathroom. Inside, she saw scattered papers and sat down to read them, but suddenly, the door slammed shut. Looking under the door, she saw a shadow moving through the house and heard terrifying noises. Realizing Rhea was in danger, she broke the window, climbed out, and rushed inside. At the same time, Ben returned to the house, locked the doors, ran upstairs, and found Jules and Rhea. Rhea, frightened, said, "I saw someone enter the house. We have to leave now." Ben took Jules aside and told her, Muriel was murdered in the woods. Jules, in shock, replied, "I discovered what happened to your dad and sister when I read the notebook in the bathroom. They didn't drown, they were killed here. There's something terrifying in this place, which is why your mom made up the drowning story to hide the truth from you." She then pulled out the notebook, which had a warning at the end. "Whoever finds this notebook, run away as fast as you can." Jules quickly started packing their essentials, preparing to leave. Just then, Ben heard a noise outside and thought the police had arrived. He ran outside, where the officer had just arrived near the house. However, the road was blocked by a fallen tree branch. As the officer stopped and reached for his radio, a monstrous creature suddenly attacked and killed him. Ben heard the screams and ran back to the house, locking the door behind him. He told Jules, "I saw the monster kill the officer. It's going to kill us too. I have to lure it into the tank, take explosives from the storage, and blow it up. When the creatures hear the noise, they'll all go inside, giving us a chance to escape." Jules was terrified for Ben, but he insisted, "This is the only way, or that thing will kill us all." Ben went to the storage, grabbed the explosives, and entered the water tank. There, he found the officer's body. He set up the explosives, but before he could escape, the monster dragged him into the water. Jules heard his screams and wanted to help, but before she could leave the room, the door started shaking violently. She realized the monster had entered the house. She quickly pushed a bookshelf against the door to block it. The monster then broke through the window and grabbed Rhea. At the same time, Ben managed to climb out of the tank, but he was badly injured. He could only watch helplessly as the monster dragged Rhea toward the tank. Meanwhile, the creature inside the house kept trying to break into Jules' room. She grabbed a flashlight and shined it at the monster, causing it to flee instantly. This made her realize that the creatures were afraid of light. Determined to save Rhea, Jules ran outside and helped Ben into the house. She then wrapped a cloth around her hand, poured bleach on it, and grabbed a torch. Ben, confused, asked, "What are you doing?" Jules explained, "These creatures are amphibians. They breathe through their skin. The bleach will burn them." She entered the tank, calling out for Rhea. Rhea responded, but suddenly, the monster appeared. Jules quickly poured bleach into the water, causing the creatures to retreat. Suddenly, one of them pulled her underwater, but she fought back, hit it with a shovel, and killed it. She then found Rhea, freed her and told her, "Your dad is waiting for you upstairs. Go now." Rhea, terrified, hesitated, but Jules convinced her to leave. As Rhea ran, more creatures started appearing. Jules lit the fire and burned them, but the flame suddenly went out. She ran out of the water tank as quickly as possible, and Rhea was waiting for her. They sealed the tank door shut, and Jules took Rhea to the car, telling her, "Stay here while I get Ben so we can leave." She spotted the officer's gun on the ground, picked it up and returned to the house. She helped Ben outside just as a monster emerged from the tank. Meanwhile, Rhea, still in the car, saw another creature approaching her. She quickly rolled down the window and jumped out. Just then, Jules appeared, carrying Ben, and rushed toward the car. She helped them inside, got behind the wheel, and prepared to leave. But before she could drive off, a monster lunged at them. Jules aimed the gun at its open mouth and fired, killing it instantly. She then hit the gas and sped away. They drove through the night until they finally felt safe. At sunrise, Jules stopped the car, knowing they had survived and the monsters were gone for good. In the end, she decided to return to their small, poor apartment rather than ever set foot in that cursed forest again.